In the heart of a bustling metropolis, life pulsed with an undeniable rhythm that never seemed to slow down. Towering skyscrapers pierced the clouds above, their glass facades reflecting the vibrant energy and ceaseless activity of millions of residents going about their daily routines below. Families strolled leisurely through lush city parks, where children's joyful laughter echoed across playgrounds filled with swings and slides. These green spaces provided a much-needed serene escape from the surrounding urban sprawl, allowing communities to connect and recharge amid the hustle. Industry thrived vigorously throughout the city, with factories humming steadily and dedicated workers diligently operating complex machinery. This scene exemplified human ingenuity and unwavering perseverance, forming the essential economic engine that powered the metropolis forward. Yet, beneath this polished veneer of prosperity and normalcy, subtle anomalies began to surface quietly. These were mere whispers at first, hinting at something deeply amiss within the city's intricate and interconnected ecosystem. Scientists, often immersed in quiet solitude within their labs, were among the very first to notice these unusual data patterns emerging from their sensitive instruments and monitoring equipment. Seismic sensors across the region registered faint yet uncharacteristic tremors that defied typical patterns, while atmospheric readings revealed inexplicable shifts in air composition and pressure levels. These anomalies were far from isolated events. Instead, a clear and concerning pattern was forming, strongly suggesting a deeper, more systemic issue lurking beneath the surface. Concern began to grow steadily within the scientific community, as their initial curiosity evolved into genuine apprehension about the implications of their discoveries. They meticulously compiled their findings from various sources, documenting every single anomaly and every deviation from established norms with precise detail and rigor. The accumulating evidence was truly compelling, clearly pointing toward an impending environmental catastrophe or geological instability that demanded attention. Driven by a profound sense of urgency, the scientists presented their detailed warnings directly to city officials, earnestly hoping for swift and decisive action to avert potential disaster. However, the initial response from authorities was marked by skepticism, quickly turning into outright dismissal of the presented concerns. Economic interests and entrenched political agendas frequently overshadowed the scientific consensus, fostering a dangerous complacency that blinded leaders to the risks ahead. Public statements emanating from City Hall actively reassured anxious citizens that there was absolutely no cause for alarm, even as the scientific evidence continued to mount. Officials repeatedly emphasized the city's proven resilience and the robustness of its extensive infrastructure, systematically downplaying any whispers of potential threats. Daily life in the city continued on its familiar course, seemingly undisturbed by the warnings, yet a subtle undercurrent of unease began to ripple through the general population. Unusual weather patterns started occurring more frequently than ever before, and minor infrastructure failures became increasingly common, signaling deeper troubles. The scientific community's once dismissed warnings now seemed to echo with a chilling prescience, validating their earlier fears in retrospect. The city's once vibrant hum and bustle began to falter noticeably, gradually replaced by a pervasive and growing sense of apprehension among residents. Even the once bright daylight now felt oppressively muted, casting long and ominous shadows across familiar streets, buildings, and sidewalks. A critical moment was fast approaching, marking a tipping point where the long-ignored warnings could no longer be contained or denied. The city, once a shining beacon of life and progress, now teetered precariously on the precipice of an uncertain and potentially dire future, its fate hanging tenuously in the balance. As the final urgent warnings echoed through the loudspeakers and airwaves, a desperate exodus suddenly began, with families frantically fleeing their cherished homes, places filled with lifelong memories that they would never see again. The once bustling roads, alive with the rhythm of daily life and routine commutes, dramatically transformed into endless rivers of despair, carrying away the last fragile vestiges of a once thriving community forever. Then, an eerie silence enveloped everything. An unnatural, profound quiet descended upon the now abandoned towns, standing in stark, haunting contrast to the chaotic panic that had just preceded it moments before. Homes stood eerily vacant, with doors left ajar and windows staring blankly out like hollow, lifeless eyes, forever preserving the frantic last moments of hurried, heart-wrenching departure. Personal effects, hastily left behind in the overwhelming rush of panic, became poignant, silent monuments to ordinary lives abruptly and irreversibly interrupted in their prime. The still air grew heavy with the faint, foreboding scent of impending decay, along with the unspoken, heartbreaking stories of those families who once joyfully called these forsaken places home. What began as years slowly turned into long, unrelenting decades, transforming the intended temporary evacuation into a permanent, sorrowful exile for countless many. The devastating long-term consequences rippled outward far beyond the immediate disaster itself, profoundly reshaping countless individual lives and entire landscapes in ways that were utterly irrevocable. Families were painfully fractured apart, livelihoods completely destroyed overnight, and the deep psychological scars inflicted ran profoundly through generations, leaving enduring wounds. The immense human cost proved utterly immeasurable, extending tragically far beyond the initial casualties to encompass a slow, agonizing loss of personal identity, cultural heritage, and sense of belonging. Many displaced residents, now forgotten by the world and scattered afar, struggled endlessly to rebuild their shattered lives in completely unfamiliar territories, forever yearning with aching hearts for what was irrevocably lost. Their once vibrant personal stories, woven as essential threads in the rich fabric of a close-knit community, slowly faded away into mere faint whispers of a distant, irretrievable past. Meanwhile, nature, ever indifferent to the depths of human tragedy and suffering, began its slow but relentless process of reclamation over the forsaken human domains. Deep cracks forming in the weathered asphalt gradually gave way to tenacious, resilient weeds pushing upward, while young saplings boldly forced their way through crumbling concrete foundations. Dense forests steadily encroached upon the long-forgotten streets, methodically transforming once familiar urban landscapes into wild, untamed wilderness reclaimed entirely by the earth. Wild animals, previously driven far away by constant human presence and noise, now cautiously returned to roam freely and undisturbed through the silent, overgrown ruins of civilization. Relentless rust steadily consumed all exposed metal surfaces, paint peeled away layer by layer from weathered walls, and sturdy structures slowly, inevitably surrendered to the merciless forces of the elements. The mournful wind whispered hauntingly through countless shattered windows, carrying faint, ghostly echoes of a vibrant, now utterly forgotten past long silenced. These desolate ghost towns emerged as stark, unforgettable reminders of humanity's fleeting, transient footprint upon the earth and nature's superior, enduring power to reclaim and restore. Every crumbling wall, every wildly overgrown path winding through the ruins, silently told a compelling story of dire warnings tragically unheeded and the harsh consequences that were ultimately embraced. The oppressive silence here was anything but empty. Instead, it brimmed with the immense, unspoken weight of what once thriving life could have been, and the somber reality of what starkly now is. This haunting scene serves as a powerful, deeply somber lesson about foresight and preparation, eternally etched into the very fabric of the scarred landscape itself. We are solemnly reminded that our critical decisions, or our perilous indecisions, carry profound, far-reaching, and undeniably lasting impacts on everything we hold dear. The grim aftermath of those ignored warnings stands not merely as a distant historical event, but as a continuous, heartbreaking, and still unfolding tragedy before our eyes. It urgently compels each of us to deeply reflect on our shared collective responsibility to truly listen to the signs, to decisively act in time, and to vigilantly protect what matters most. For the precious sake of all future generations to come, we must heed and learn vital lessons from the silent, enduring testament of these haunting, forgotten places. Subscribe to Quick History for more real stories.